My heart is crying. Hello, hello. Welcome to the stream. 2:15. Let me alert the social media that I've gone live. All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the stream. Can everybody see and hear me? Is the stream working? Do a backflip? I don't know how to do a backflip. But even if I did, I probably wouldn't do it. Well, I probably couldn't do it. It's not enough room, really. It is 2:15 p.m. here in Birmingham, Alabama. It's kind of sunny outside. It rained all day yesterday, so it's still like the remnants of that. Is the microphone loud? I forgot where I was going with that. These actually spent all those tips on beer. No. But I don't know, like the tips obviously are allocated towards my total income. So I don't really know exactly what those tips get spent on, but I just think that it's a good way to sort of conceptualize giving a tip to someone. Because a lot of people don't really get why people even accept tips and donations. It's like, why do you do that? Well, I don't know. If you just want to buy me a beer or something, that's cool. I was gonna say it may be true that the percentage of my income that comes from tips may be equal to the percentage of my income that I spend on alcohol, but it's probably not. I don't think I spend that much on alcohol. Oh, what up, Rap Critic? Um, but yeah. Just popped in to say, love your vids, keep rocking. I appreciate that. I like your vids also. Popping in from Philosophy Tube. Oh, is he streaming? I didn't know he was streaming. I'm sorry for making you guys choose between two streams. What do you think of Jordan Peterson? I mostly think that he's a clown. Sometimes he, like when he's speaking about things that he clearly has an expertise in, which is like psychology and stuff, sometimes he says interesting things, but once he starts talking about like politics and stuff, it's just almost always redonkulous. Straight Dude Logic was classic material. I appreciate that. Yeah, the video got a very good reception. I'm happy because it's one of those things that I think people can be very defensive about. So I'm good that a lot of people, or most people, seem to understand where I was coming from with it. What's the topic? The topic is whatever you want it to be. I'm just hanging out with the chat. Hey T1J, longtime fan, love your videos. You're not really a nice guy video absolutely changed my life and helped me on the path to becoming a better person. I appreciate it more than you know. I appreciate that. That's good to hear. That video is, I guess that video sort of put me on the map. And it's an interesting, I don't know, it's interesting that that video is sort of, I guess it was sort of like my introduction to sort of the online sort of progressive sphere. Because that video wasn't even like I think that video sort of perceived as like a feminist video or something. But it's really not. Like, the video is like, much like the Straight Dude Logic video, it's targeted towards men. In honor of President's Day, what do you think of the candidates so far? I don't know. People keep asking me, like, what do I think about the candidates? But I don't, or at least the strategy that I have decided to take is to really not think about it until it's closer to the time where it actually matters in terms of voting. Like, I want to let the candidates have more opportunities to actually talk about their positions and their policy proposals and stuff. Like, right now, it's just, we don't really know anything about these people, so it's just a bunch of like wild speculation and just like random. Obviously they've been in politics for a while, but they've never like actually ran for president, so they never had to actually talk about what their actual views are or what policy they would actually make if they had the power or were in the position to do that. So I'm just gonna wait until they actually talk about that stuff more, because I really don't know. Lana Allen, thank you for the $10 super chat. Did I ever watch Static Shock? I did watch Static Shock. Videos can be feminist and targeted towards men. Yeah, I guess so, but what I'm saying is my goal in making that video is not in any way inspired by feminism. Probably, I don't know for sure, I don't really remember, but probably when I made that video, I was probably pretty, like, not into feminism, actually. Or at least on the surface, based on sort of my misconceptions about what feminism was. Louis Gormel, thank you for the 10 pounds. Has the concept of the informed voter become a myth? I don't think so. I don't think it's difficult to be informed. You just have to care enough to do it. There's like so much easily accessible information out there. You just have to learn how to parse it. Like everyone, you know, there's this big thing about like fake news and how like Facebook and social media and Google were like responsible for disseminating fake news, and that's a problem for sure, because not everybody is gonna like fact check everything. But I think that more people should have the diligence to fact check things and not just assume something is true because you saw a headline on Facebook. And I think another thing that we have to really understand, which is it's a kind of a problem across the political spectrum, is that most things are pretty complex and nuanced, and there usually isn't like a black or white answer to every problem. And I think that that's one of the problems with sort of like the headline clickbait culture, is they sort of want to simplify things, but as has been said, the truth resists simplicity. A particular arrangement of true facts can still tell multiple stories. Absolutely. That's why if your desire is to be informed, you have to have the diligence to actually dive in and look at multiple stories and look at multiple analysis. But I'm not saying that I'm perfect at it, but I'm the type of person that, like, for one, like, I won't share an article unless I've like at least done a minor amount of checking to make sure it's actually true. And if I like see an article, you know, I'm gonna like a thing that happens a lot is an article's headline will sometimes misrepresent what's the actual like message of the article, or the actual text of the article. And I like, whenever I see an article these days, I always like read it before I even think about sharing it or like commenting on it or stuff like that. Oh, by the way, what do y'all think of this logo? I might change it. I don't know if it actually represents me that well. But if you can't tell, the T1J logo is different. And if you want to see a bigger version, you can just go to my YouTube channel or my Twitter. I feel like I may need to like change up the color scheme. I don't know. I really like I've been doing orange and purple for years, and that's sort of an unusual color combination. You don't see it that much, so I kind of like that it's unusual. But I feel like it's kind of hard to use orange and purple, A, without making it look obnoxious, and B, without sort of like it almost has this sort of like 90s neon kind of look to it, which is kind of cool, but I don't know if it actually like represents me very well. But I don't know, I'm still working on it. I realize like I've been looking at, I follow like a couple of design YouTubers, and I have like a really like outdated sensibility about design, because I sort of like took, you know, I used to like play around in Photoshop and Illustrator and stuff like when I was in college and stuff like that, and that was basically the early 2000s and mid 2000s, and the design sort of what's in design has definitely changed a lot since then, and I haven't really evolved as quickly as the design community has. So I'm struggling to make things that actually like look cool and look like they fit in this decade.
Why do you prefer Alabama in football over Auburn? What would you say are the top 3 Bama colleges?
Thank you for the 333. Why do you prefer Alabama in football over Auburn? Well, I guess the main reason is because I went to Alabama, but also because they're better. What would you say are the top 3 Bama colleges in terms of football, or just in general? In general, I don't know. In terms of football, it would definitely be Alabama and Auburn, and maybe Troy. All right, Edwin, thank you for stopping by. Yeah, I'm not, I mean, yeah, I can probably, like, I'm not that concerned with it being readable, like immediately readable as saying T1J, but maybe it would be better if it was. Left tube tends to borrow heavily from Vaporwave, which plays with 90s elements anyway, so I think it's fine. I mean, maybe. I also want to sort of add more dynamics to my overall presentation anyway. Like, I feel like my channel is too serious sometimes. Like, I try to put jokes in videos every now and then, but sometimes I feel like it's just too serious. I just want to like be a little more lighthearted sometimes, while still like talking about, you know, important, interesting topics. Do you ever watch soccer? Farless brain damage. I like soccer. I don't watch it frequently, although I might get into it because my city, Birmingham, Alabama, we just formed a soccer club. And so I might want to support it. If you were young at the time the Black Panthers were really big, do you think you'd have joined? Probably not, because I'm not a very confrontational person, nor am I interested in violence at all. I think you had a perfect balance with some of the standing rant videos. Yeah, I think a lot of the older videos, I don't know, the YouTube is weird because you really have to sort of evolve as time goes on. And I've definitely changed the format several times. And it's, you know, people, it's kind of hard sometimes to get feedback from people because, at least with me, whenever I ask the audience, like, what kind of format they like, what do you prefer, what I usually get is most people just do whatever you want, which is like very unhelpful advice. But also, like, what is the most effective thing is often not, like, the people who will speak up to answer that question often don't represent the majority. So, like, when I started making more video essay type videos, I started getting more views. But, you know, if I would have asked my audience, do you like just sort of like the ranty vlog type stuffs? Probably most of them would have said yes. So I don't know. What's up, Stel Uno? Thank you for the super chat, Electric Lomain. What way of eating seems to work for me? Well, I am a big advocate of the keto diet, although lately I have not been very good at following it. But in general, the diet that I personally advocate for is the keto diet because it's easier for me to control my calories and to eat healthy on a keto diet. But I've been cheating a lot lately. In fact, I just ate 3 slices of pizza, which is very not keto. Would you say you're more MLK type person than Malcolm X? I mean, yeah, I guess. I'm not really MLK because he also was pretty confrontational also. But in terms of being nonviolent and sort of more about harmony than separation, yeah. For the majority of Malcolm X's career, I don't think that he was a very admirable figure. But by the end, you know, he had figured it out, but it didn't last very long, obviously. He obviously was a very important person to black culture or black history and civil rights. Have I ever interviewed someone? Nope. I was thinking about doing a series of interviews of like progressive creators and stuff, but I don't know. At a certain point as the creator, you have to do what you feel best communicates the way you want to. Yeah, well, there's a lot of different variables, especially when you're a YouTuber, because it's like if you're like me, you're like a creative person. I don't know, saying that I'm an artist sounds really pretentious, but I mean that's kind of what it is. So you want to fulfill your creative urges. You want to do something that you think is cool. But B, also, you want to do something that the audience likes. But also, you want to do something if you're in a position like me, who does this for a living, you also want to do something that is likely to, result in profit for you, whether it be through money or views or whatever it is. And then you have to do all that, but you have to find a process to do that over and over again. And that's why a lot of channels, there's some channels that they find a formula and they stick to it for years because it works for them. It gets them, maybe if they explore it a little bit more, they could every now and then hit gold and get like a lot more views, but they'd rather play it safe and just do what they know works. And when you have a formula, it's very easy to make sure you have that video like every week or every month or every day if that's what you do. But like with someone like me and probably a lot of video essayists, it's like you have an idea, but sometimes you don't really have a blueprint already for how to execute that idea. So you just kind of have to work on it, and it's just done when it's done, and you just hope that people like it. But that's why, I mean, I like that the community for BreadTube or whatever is okay with waiting for videos because that's why it takes so long for these videos to come out, because we don't really have a blueprint for how they're supposed to be made, because each one is sort of like its own project. But back in the day when I was doing those sort of ranty videos, those like where I just stand in front of the camera, rant, jump cut for like 5 minutes, I had a formula, so I could pump those out. And I'm not saying that I didn't like work hard on them and something, because I think they still made like good arguments, but I think it became clear that audiences weren't as into those types of videos as they once were. Yeah, I think The Rock is easily the most successful post WWE. He's been killing it. Even his very first movie, like they paid him like $20 million or some shit for his first movie, which is unheard of. If you lived in the 1960s, you think you'd have wanted to get involved with the civil rights movement? I probably would have got involved in some way. I'm not sure that I would have been out on the streets getting sprayed with fire hose, but I probably would have did something. I would have like wrote books or something. Now, I think The Rock has really changed the game. John Cena is also pretty like popular in the mainstream, but he also is still part of the WWE. So I don't know if he counts as post WWE. But I think that John Cena has broken into the mainstream in a way that most other wrestlers have not. But, you know, I think that most people don't even see The Rock as a wrestler anymore. He's just, I guess, an actor, but mostly he's just like a personality. He's like a celebrity. The process of the first album creation was daunting, but it's helped set the formula for how I record the whole thing. It still takes ages to write a song. Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of not necessarily a formula, but there's like things that you know work that you can do again. But you know, with those old videos, I literally had it like I literally like sort of wrote it down almost. Like the scripts had a formula, the format of the editing had a formula. It's like, okay, there's gonna be a cold open, and then we're gonna do the intro, and then I'm gonna present the thesis of the video, and then I'm gonna present one side of the argument, and then I'm gonna present the side of the argument that I think is correct. Yeah, like it was very, very formulaic. What does GVDLUSVNQ mean? Did you like go to my store? Is that how you saw that? I haven't even like announced that yet. But try to figure out what it means. It's pretty easy. Yeah, well, The Rock's first starring role was the Scorpion King. He was in The Mummy 3, I think, but he only had a small role. Yeah, I'm gonna announce that shirt design soon. But the success of it depends on people being able to figure out what it means. So if people can't figure out what it means, then do you feel part of the BreadTube community, or do you have problems with it? In terms of the creators in the BreadTube community, I love all of them for the most part. The actual community, the people who watch, can often be pretty obnoxious, but they can also be cool, and so that probably applies to any community. In terms of BreadTube, I think that my contribution is more on the social justice side of things, social equality, social justice issues, and as far as if people accept that as part of LeftTube, then that's fine. I think that BreadTube / LeftTube has come to be defined very strongly by being strongly anti-capitalist or even outright socialist or communist. And those of you who know me know that I'm not an anti-capitalist, so that puts me at odds with a lot of the BreadTube stuff. But it seems like either people don't know that, or they know that and they're still okay with associating me with BreadTube. So either way, I don't know. If people want to say that I'm part of BreadTube, then I'm happy to accept that. But if they don't, then I'm okay with that too. I'm just doing me over here. Were you ever close to giving up YouTube as a career? Yes. Those of you who've been around for a while may remember that I made a video called I'm at a crossroads in my life. And it was basically me saying I was just at a point where I wasn't making enough money to really live on my own, and I needed to do that because I was about to move into an apartment, and I just wasn't making enough money. And so basically I just asked people to support me on Patreon if they thought the videos were worth it. And if I didn't get enough support, I probably would have pretty much put YouTube to the side because I just needed to get a job. But very, very fortunately, my community came together and really supported me. And that's, for that, I am eternally grateful, because since I have been able to continue YouTube, a lot of opportunities have come. And if I would have quit right then, obviously I wouldn't have seen those opportunities. Why am I not anti-capitalist? Because I like things about capitalism, like private ownership and private property and competitive markets and things like that. Obviously, the way that America does capitalism is completely fucked up and needs to be changed. But I don't think it needs to be removed. I think that some people consider like social democrats leftists. I think some people don't, some people do, but that's probably the closest thing to what I am. If Kofi doesn't win the belt at Mania, I will cut off my nipples. I have a strong feeling that they are not going to do anything with this Kofi thing, but I will be pleasantly surprised if they do. Advice for lack of motivation with work. What kind of work do you mean? I don't honestly, I think lack of motivation is like bullshit. Like with work or with anything that you want to do, anything that you are saying, this is what I'm doing. Really, it just boils down to you know that there's something you need to do, and then you just do it. Like, you don't wait for motivation. You just do the thing that you know you're supposed to do. And generally, when you actually start doing the thing, then the motivation starts to come. But I think that lack of motivation is like a BS excuse for not doing work. Just do it. Just fucking do it. Sometimes in life you have to do stuff that you don't feel like doing at the time. Just do it. What are your thoughts on pro-life? I don't agree with it. I don't know. I don't know what else to say about that. I don't think that there are any very good pro-life arguments. It's sort of like an argument from emotion. You can be anti-capitalism in the sense of criticizing the excesses and how cruel it can be. Yeah, I think that my argument is that isn't unique to capitalism, so I wouldn't describe it as anti-capitalism. Just, you don't get burnout, you just power through it. I mean, not if you have to do it. If you can afford to take a break, then you should obviously take breaks. Like, I'm in a position as a YouTuber where if I need to take like 2 weeks off from working on YouTube, I can do that. I can afford to do that. But I can't really take 3 months off. Eventually I need to just do it. Because that's just the thing that I'm supposed to do. Life is that's just life. You just have to do shit you don't want to do sometimes. If you're okay with the thing not being done, then fine. But if it's something that you've committed to and you want to do, then you just do it. I'm not in favor of this sort of like work till you die mentality. Like, that's not what I'm advocating for. I'm just advocating for doing the thing that you said you're going to do. But obviously you shouldn't just work nonstop to the point where you're just exhausted and can't function. People should take breaks. People should take vacations. People should take, moments for themselves. Like, I think that that's almost as important as doing your work. But you still have to do your work. I'm not a doctor or anything like that, so I can't comment on actual clinical conditions that prevent you from doing stuff. I have no comment on that because that's not my area of expertise. But if we're talking about just in general lack of motivation, which was the original question, you just do what you do. What I truly can't abide is the modern capitalist scapegoating the idea that if capitalism doesn't work for you, then you deserve poverty. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the American capitalism, sort of the American mindset, which I think is completely backwards and warped. And I don't think it has to be like that. I don't think that's an inherent function of capitalism. Well, I feel like most of the people that are described as left tube YouTubers, well, not most of them, but many of them are like either socialists or democratic socialists or even social democrats. Some of them are anarchists, which, I mean, I guess anarchism is a type of socialism. But I think that many of them are not anarchists is what I'm saying. But I don't know. Like I said, it's not that important to me to be perceived as being part of that community. But if people want to, that's fine, because I like most of the YouTubers that get associated with that. What is my daily routine? I don't know. I don't really have a routine. Well, I have a routine that I would like to say that I have, but I don't always follow it. But it usually involves just like getting up. I've been trying to get up earlier recently, like before noon, which I never used to do. It's kind of unheard of for me back in the day. But I get up, meditate. Like meditate is like the first thing that I try to do every day. And I stretch, and I brush my teeth. I've been messing around with the idea of doing a like gratitude journal, because a lot of successful people do that, and I think it's a good exercise just to always have gratitude as in your head at the start of the day. It's a good state of mind to be in. But I've only done it like a couple of times. I might start doing it every day though. Then I brush my teeth and probably eat breakfast after that. And then after that, it just sort of depends. Usually during and after breakfast, I just sort of relax for a second and just like watch YouTube or something, or play a video game. And then at some point I do something productive, whether it's like working on a video or like cleaning up or something like that. I can never consistently practice meditation. I don't, like I said, I don't always keep the routine, but I try to do it. And I don't know, the way I see it, if you do it more than never, then it's fine. Just do it. Like I don't really punish myself for messing up. It's just like, well, you missed a few days. Just start back. It's fine. Whoever lived in a noisy apartment? Well, the inside my apartment is not very noisy, because I live with my brothers and we're all pretty quiet, I guess. Sometimes, like, the neighbors are loud. Like, my upstairs neighbor, I think, has a bunch of kids and they're always running around. But honestly, I've gotten to the point where I tune it out. I don't even, like, pay attention to it. So maybe that's just like a superpower I have, being able to tune out noise. I just got a job at a fast food place, so excited. Not really. Yeah, working in fast food is rough, but at least you'll get a paycheck. It's easy, I guess. It can be stressful, but just kind of turn your brain off and do it and collect the check. You're an interesting person. I'm thankful I discovered this channel. Your fan all the way from Saudi Arabia, and hopefully future Patreon once I get my shit together. Thank you very much, Nipple Twister. Nipple Twister 6669. This is an excellent name. The best economic plan and governing style is always a blend. A pure expression of any organizational type will always fail. I mean, I don't know if that's true, but whether or not it's true, realistically, it's the only thing that will ever happen, because there are too many types of people in the world. If the anarchists believe that they are going to convert the entire world into anarchists, they are deluded. So they are either just going to have to like sit back and watch the world burn, or try to work with other center or left people to make some changes. and they can get some of their ideas in, but they're gonna have to compromise on other things. Only thing wrong with my apartment building is the floors are super creaky. Mine are kind of too, but I lived in a basement for so long, my family stomps around, so it doesn't bother me. Yeah, I just tune it out. Like, I was living. I recently moved I was living with one of my brothers, and I recently moved my other brother in, and like the first week he was like, how do y'all deal with this? They're pretty loud upstairs. And I was like, honestly, I didn't even realize that they were being loud because I tuned it out. What's up, Sarah? Hey, how is Chris? Chris is cool. I don't see him that much these days. We sort of live on opposite sides of town. And I don't know, he's like off doing big boy stuff, I guess. He like went back to school, and he's like got a job and stuff. It's not like before we would just kind of hung around all the time and just went out every night. Why is it that conservatives get extremely outraged insignificant things like SJWs, but don't seem to care about things like climate change or income inequality? I don't know. There's a lot of different answers. One of them, well, a lot of it is just, they've been influenced by propaganda. Like, if you spend all of your time watching Fox News, then you're just going to have a lot of inconsistent and stupid opinions. That's just what happens when you expose yourself to nonstop lunacy. A lot of it is sort of ingrained bigotry. So if you've been taught that certain types of people are sort of second class, then of course you're not going to support things that benefit marginalized groups. And then a lot of it is just like ideology over, which is kind of interesting because we're talking about that in terms of the left, but it also happens on the right, where people have ideology over practicality. So it's like a lot of conservatives or libertarians and things like that, they just 100% are like, small government, there doesn't need to be all these social programs. The government should not be involved. The free market can solve everything. That's just their ideology. They don't really care if it works or if it's true. That's just what they believe, and they're not gonna flinch on it because that's just their thing. It's like a religion, basically. Like with religion, they just believe something, and it doesn't matter if it's practically useful or practically true. It's just the thing they believe. So that's what they're going to support, and they're only going to support politicians and policy that reflect that belief. And I think that happens also. Music recommendations. I don't know. I don't listen to music. Well, it's not true that I don't listen to music, but I don't really keep up with music, which is an interesting thing to say. It always sounds weird when I say it out loud because it seems to be pretty unusual, but I actually don't follow music at all. Like, I like music, and every now and then I will stumble upon a song that I really like, but I don't like intentionally go seek music out. So I don't really have any music recommendations. Unless you want to talk about like early 2000s hip hop, because that's basically the only time I ever paid attention to music. Like late 90s, early 2000s hip hop. Get the album "It's Dark and Hell Is Hot" by DMX. It's crazy. What about films? I don't watch a lot of films either. The only media that I engage in a lot is YouTube and video games. But I did say that one of my New Year's resolutions was to watch more movies. So I'm going to try to do that. But I haven't really gotten started on it yet. I'm only 20, so I haven't been politically engaged for too long. But has the anti-SJW culture always existed, or is it a more recent thing? Well, it kind of depends on what you actually mean by anti-SJW culture. Basically, anti-SJWs are reactionaries, people with reactionary politics, and reactionaries have always existed for sure. Anytime there is any kind of social justice movement or progressive political movement, there's always a group of people who come out and talk about how basically have a negative reaction to it. And the modern equivalent of that is sort of the whole anti-SJW thing. And if you like actually look through history, you can see a lot. You can see like similarities. Like they use the same argument. Like if you read sort of anti-SJW arguments against Black Lives Matter, for example, then go and read some of the reactionary statements about the civil rights movement. It's like exactly the same. Like in some cases, almost word for word. It's crazy. I'm curious to hear your views on the wisdom that comes with age. I certainly see how experience informs one's worldview, but it also seems that older people should agree more if it were that simple. Well, I think the thing about it is when you're older, that doesn't make you any less able to be influenced by outside sources. So it's very easy to get adult. It's just as easy to get adults to believe things as it is to get younger people to believe things. So you're always going to see a lot of differing views. But I think depending on the subject, like there are certain subjects that just older people just generally naturally have more experience in and just almost always know more about. Like relationships or jobs or I don't know. Like there's certain things. I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to really like. The thing about the world is complicated. So, I wouldn't really expect all older people to agree on things because there's no singular. I don't think there is any singular answer to any of the world's problems. But I do think that someone with experience probably has a more informed perspective. I mean, internet and internet culture is a large part of why this this movement of anti-progressivism has become popular. But like I said, this has been around forever. There's always going to be a sort of a shitlord response to any kind of social justice movement. So the social justice movement that came out of the internet will have necessarily spawned a reaction to it. I do think that this version of it is notable in its like fervor almost. But I mean, I think there's still precedent for that if you look through history. I also think that the right has gotten more crafty over time, and the right has played a large role in advancing sort of reactionary politics. Why do progressive movements always have a ton of reactionary resistance? You think people would learn from history and try to be on the right side of it? Well, people don't always act rationally. In fact, people often act irrationally. And whenever you're in a position where the status quo benefits you, you just are naturally going to resist it. Like, you have to actively fight your natural inclination to resist any changes to the status quo. So and in some ways it's like just the feeling of resistance is not bad, because it makes sense. Like, if you're in a position where the normal state of affairs works for you, it's comfortable for you, it benefits you, of course you're gonna be resistant if someone says, hey, we need to change this. But the problem is people don't go a step further to think about why people might want to change it, and really like quantify what exactly it is that you're losing in terms of what can be gained. Video game you've been playing? I've been playing Smash Brothers and Hollow Knight, and I'm playing Undertale for the first time. I think that's all I've been playing. I downloaded I played a couple games of Apex Legends. It's pretty fun, but I'm so bad at it. Battle Royale games are just not my jam. I don't like the fact that you just die and then the game's over. You just have to completely go back to the fucking title screen and start over. If you were involved in the civil rights movement in the 60s, you think you would have been put off by how tied up religion is back then? I mean, maybe. It's hard to really think about how I would be in a completely different context. Like, if I wasn't in a context where I could even think about the merits of atheism, then I probably wouldn't be an atheist. And it seems like in that context, it's just not a thing that would even come up. You know, there was no like Richard Dawkins on YouTube to watch in 1960. Do I watch Anthony Fantano? No, that's like the needle drop dude, right? Nah, Anthony Fantano, I don't know what his deal is, but my introduction to him was when he made that video with all the anti-SJWs. Well, he didn't make the video, but he was involved in the video. So I was like, oh, this guy's a shitlord. But maybe, maybe he's like cleaned up his act since then. Apparently the Needle Drop is a very good channel, but I never watched it. Thank you for the 333. How was the reparations video received? It seems to be mostly well received. If I did get any major pushback, I didn't really notice it, but that's because I don't. It kind of sucks, but I stopped reading comments after like the first couple of days, and after the first couple of days is when negative comments would start coming in if they were to come in. But from what I saw, it seems to mostly get a good response. Who do I main in Smash? I think right now I main Ike, but I'm not sure. There's a lot of characters that I'm trying to learn. Pretty sure there wouldn't be so many anti-vaxxers or flat earthers if it wasn't for the internet fueling it. Well, yeah, that's the culture. The internet fuels everything, so you can't really escape it. There's a lot of, there would probably also be less people involved in environmentalism and less people involved in like animal activism if it weren't for the internet also. So the internet fuels everything. Richard Dawkins is not that smart. He makes fun of philosophy for not being scientific. Well, I don't know if am going to say that he's not that smart, but I basically just mentioned him because he is probably a large reason why a lot of people became atheists. Whether or not you think he's smart or not. All right, Electric Lomain, thank you for the donations. Thanks for stopping by. You're not into music, so why would you watch the Needle Drop? I think people took Fantano the wrong way because he just really loves memes and can be a bit of a troll. Pretty sure he's a left-leaning centrist. That doesn't really mean much to me. Probably all anti-SJW, well, not all, but especially a lot of those ones from that time period, they probably all identify as left-leaning centrists. It doesn't really mean a whole lot. Like, The Amazing Atheist is probably a left-leaning centrist. Fucking Shoe on Head and Armor Skeptic are left-leaning centrists. Fucking Bering is probably a left-leaning centrist. I don't know for sure. There are some who are definitely like right-wingers. Like, I don't know. Like Blair White's definitely right-wing. Sargon probably identifies as a left-leaning centrist, but he's definitely right-wing. So, that doesn't really mean that anything to me. But I'm like completely out of the loop when it comes to the anti SJWs. I don't know what they're talking about these days. For all I know, they may just have completely flipped the script. Although I doubt it. But for all I know, maybe they have. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what I honestly don't even know Thunderfoot's politics. I know that he opposed Brexit and he made like 49 videos about Anita Sarkeesian. But he at least seemed to oppose the indecency of the community, which is more than I can say for a lot of the people. A lot of right-wing people call themselves classical liberals. I agree. To the extent that whenever someone says that they are classical liberal, I just assume that they're right-wing. Maybe that's unfair, but that's where I'm at now. I think there's a lot of people who maybe they're centrist or maybe they're even left leaning, but they just have this desire to quote unquote own the libs, and they just do shit or they entertain shit. They entertain certain ideas or certain right wing ideas, or even they just outright support certain ideas that just in for no reason other than because it vaguely is anti-left or it vaguely pisses off like progressives. And so it just becomes the point at which like the act becomes reality. Like I remember I think it was Bering, and he lives in Australia, and I think Australia they did like a referendum about like gay marriage or something, and he made this video about how he voted no on gay marriage, and he came up with some bullshit like rationale for it. But it's like it's at the point where like being opposed to gay marriage, like that's like a hard right wing thing. Like most human beings, whether or not you are a SJW or not, most people understand that gay people should be able to get married. Like that's just like basic human equality, you know? But some of these people get so deep into the fucking reactionary bullshit that they would literally like IRL go and vote against gay marriage. Someone is messaging me like a bunch. Honestly, I think centrists can sometimes be more dangerous than flat out right wingers because they seem more acceptable to people and normalize things that really shouldn't be normalized. I can see what you mean. That's why, I mean, that's where, or like that's part of where like the whole useful idiot idea comes from. That's like the problem with people like Sam Harris, who he's probably not even centrist. Like I think he's more left than centrist on most issues, but he just entertains and platforms all these like often extreme right wing ideas. And people like Philip DeFranco, who just sort of like hey, maybe these Nazis have a point. He didn't really say anything. He didn't say that specifically, but that's basically what he does. He's like he like the whole centrist thought process is often either both sides are equally bad or both sides have a point. And saying that is often does more harm than good. I don't think the government should have a role in marriage in the first place. Marriage is a religious ceremony. I don't know. That's complicated. I only found your channel fairly recently, but I've loved your vids, and I'm glad I got to ask you some questions, get thoughtful responses. I appreciate that. The thing about marriage is when you marry someone, they become part of your family, and having a familial relationship is important in a lot of situations. For example, like if someone needs to see you in the hospital, a lot of times, depending on the situation, they will only let someone who is in your family see you. And a lot of times that person is your spouse. So things like that. But I think you could make an argument for both sides. Will I stream games? I would like to stream games. I just never really feel like doing it. Streaming video games to me is like kind of exhausting. Like streaming like this is cool because it's just like having a conversation. But actually like trying to play a video game while interacting with the chat at the same time is like mentally exhausting for me. But I do want to do it some more. I have a Twitch channel if you want to follow it. I don't know when I'm going to stream again. My goal is maybe to just stream once a week on Twitch eventually. But it's twitch.tv/theonejanitor if you want to follow. I'm trying to get the name T1J on Twitch. I think it's on a deleted channel. And I think they reserve deleted channel names for like several months and then release them. So I keep trying to check if T1J is available. There's a Sam Harris debate with Hannibal Buress. That seems weird. Well, the problem is sometimes the person is incapacitated and they can't decide who's allowed to see them. I'm sure that they could like write it down beforehand, but it's hard to have the foresight like all of the people that you want to be able to see you. Or it could be like someone that you've only known for not that long of a time or something. Like maybe you met someone like a year ago and fell in love and married them and then had a terrible accident. And maybe you didn't get around to writing their name down on the paper. Like I understand why they default to familial relationships. But, you know, most people, I don't think gay marriage, like I don't think that's a debate any of us are going to have. Like we kind of all understand that like the only people who oppose gay marriage are like fundamentalist Christians and just assholes really. So my point in bringing that up was just to show how deep down the sort of like shitlord rabbit hole some people have gone, that they try to rationalize just overtly hard right stances, even though they claim to be liberals or left leaning. Since Trump, I've often thought I'd be happier if I could get myself to view Americans with the same level of emotional detachment that view people in the third world. I mean, I don't even understand what you're saying. I don't think you should view any human beings with emotional detachment. I mean, that's like sort of the problem we have in America, is people don't see other people as actually full humans. I would like to see Destiny debate Ben Shapiro. That would be hilarious. It would be interesting though, because I think they're both very good at debating. But Ben Shapiro is always wrong. So I would assume that if two people were equally good at debating, but one of them is wrong, then they would probably get trounced, right? Maybe not. Maybe if they're so good at debating and so good at like playing to the crowd or something, they would still come out seeming victorious. I think in making left-wing videos, the problem is that I would be overwhelmingly harsh. I mean, you can do whatever you want. The problem with being mean is it's hard to do that without also being problematic. But maybe you could pull it off. But there are people who do stuff like that. Like Kevin Logan does that. What's a fundamentalist Christian? Basically, people who take the Bible literally. I mean, that's kind of an oversimplification, but that's basically what it means. People with just sort of extreme dogmatic views based on the Bible that just really are impractical in today's society. Is it time for Kofi to main event WrestleMania, win the title? I think so, but is that going to happen? I don't know. Ben Shapiro kinds of just wins debates by being an ass. It's off-putting, and I don't know why people like it. Well, I don't know. The problem is he's good at making the people he's talking to not have a response. He's good at like phrasing things in a way where people are like dumbfounded and unable to respond. So it makes it seem like he's right. How many atheist soup kitchens are there? I don't think I've ever heard of an atheist soup kitchen, but I've heard of soup kitchens that have nothing to do with religion. Do you remember what happened with Booker T at WrestleMania? I don't exactly remember, but I do know that WWE really doesn't like black champions. I was hanging out with friends watching Elimination Chamber, all of whom are white, and I made a point of saying, y'all know if Kofi wins this, he's going to be the first WWE champion ever. which would be so tight if Kofi was the first the first black WWE champion ever. I mean, I get depressed when I think about Americans losing rights. Would I be happier if I could not think about it the same way I hardly think about North Korea rights violations? Would you be happier? Maybe, probably. But I don't know if that's a good thing. Ignorance is definitely bliss, I guess. If you don't think about stuff, then you don't have to worry about being upset by it. What I mean is he constantly interrupts people and just throws a bunch of condescending sound bites at people. Yeah, I mean, it's effective. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not saying it's good, but it's effective. And that's what you have to do. I mean, Destiny does the same thing, but he just says things that are true most of the time. You know, if you're having a friendly civil discussion with your friend, then obviously, hopefully you would be polite to each other. But if you're having like a fierce political debate with someone you perceive as an opponent, you're not going to like be polite to them. Like you're going to make sure you get your word in, and you're going to try to humiliate them. That's just what you do. That's what's effective. Like I don't know. I've evolved a lot on debating. I still have no desire to debate people. And I think it's unfortunate that debates usually don't debates are usually not decided by the person who has made the better arguments. However, I think that people who have the right ideas need to get better at that style of rhetorical debate. We need more people like Destiny. And I keep bringing up Destiny just because he's like a quintessential example of someone who's on the left that's, you know, known for being good at debating people. But for example, like I watched a video where it was like a stream with Destiny and Hassan Piker, who and they were like reviewing a debate that Hassan had, and Destiny was basically just telling him, basically like giving him ideas on how he can improve his debate. And none of those tips were make better arguments. The tips were all about, okay, you need to do this because this is going to make him look stupid. You need to make sure that you call him out when he does that. You need to interrupt him before he interrupts you. Like, that's just, and it sucks that you have to do that. But I think that we need more people that are good at doing that, because we need people on the left to be winning debates. Winning, you know, there's usually not a judge, but like winning. I think the most maybe like the classic example of literal Bible interpretations is the people that believe that the earth or the universe, I guess the earth, is only a few thousand years old, which is based on a literal reading of the Bible and a literal counting of the generations mentioned in the Bible. And so they estimate that the earth or the universe is only a few thousand years old, even though it's basically a scientific fact that the universe is many billion years old, and the earth is like 3 or 4 billion, and the universe is like 15 billion. So that's like sort of like one of the quintessential examples of when fundamentalists take the Bible literally. A lot of modern Christians, probably most modern Christians, who still want to like justify their love of the Bible, usually say that, yeah, okay, when the Bible is not literally saying that this is 1,000 years old, yada yada yada. it's it's often interesting when you see sort of the differences between arguments made by fundamentalists and arguments made by sort of moderate Christians who basically just say that, well, they say that they conveniently say that certain things are metaphors or like not applicable, but then other things aren't metaphors. Can I post a link to the video of Destiny trying to teach Piker how to debate better? I can try to find it. It's like 3 hours long, so if you want to watch that. But yeah, it was notable to me because it was all about basically rhetorical style and trying to humiliate. I think he was debating Charlie Kirk. I think it's this one. Wait, let me see. Wait. No, I think it's on Hassan Piker's channel. Yeah, I think this is it right here. Oh, Ali's stream ended. My stream will probably end in 30-ish minutes. But we're still here for now. I don't know much about Dr. Lehman. I don't really know. I'm familiar with Dr. Lehman, but I don't know that much about him. What's up? A couple people came from Ollie's stream. That's cool. Ollie's a big shot. He hardly answers any questions from the chat. Well, I mean, my whole stream is just Q&A. Usually my streams don't have any like pre-planned topics. So the point of my stream is sort of to answer questions. But I can understand if that's not the point of another stream. What music do I listen to? I listen to hip-hop from the late 90s and early 2000s. Oh, he only reads Superchat. Well, I mean, yeah, if the chat is so cluttered that you literally physically can't, then, you know, that's how it goes. It's a double-edged sword because you want your stream to grow, you want your channel to grow. But when it grows, that means you miss a lot of you can't really engage with the chat in the same way that you used to. So, you know, obviously I want my stream to grow also. And I hope that you guys will become okay with the fact that in the future I may not be able to actually engage with the chat like I can now. And I even now I miss a lot of questions. So Did you see Into the Spider-Verse? I haven't seen it yet. I think it's about to like, do y'all have like a budget theater that shows like movies that are out of the theater? Like we have the dollar theater, and it shows movies that just left the main theater. And so I think it's about to go into the dollar theater, and I may just watch it there for $1. Is there any older music you like old jazz or blues? I like old rock music. I like classical music, but the only classical music I'm really familiar with is like the really, really famous stuff. So I don't know if that counts. I'm not a big fan of jazz. Blues is cool. I've seen that effect of growth on live chats firsthand. Been a mod on the channel since it was sub 5K. Now it's at 125K. Word. Yeah, I mean, it's just a thing that happens. I don't know what to tell you. That's just one of the things that's going to happen. But I think that a creator, you know, especially a YouTuber, they should give people ways to engage if they want to. Like with me, if you like really want to send me a message or ask me a question, there's many, many ways you can do that. You can email me, you can tweet at me, you can try in chat or a comment, but it's likely that I may miss it. I have a Discord now, as you can tell by the link on the screen, the URL on the screen. If you have Discord, feel free to become a member of my Discord. And as of right now, that's a really easy way to talk to me because I'm on there a lot. But right now it's pretty chill because I've only like announced it on Twitter and Patreon and here, I guess. Once I mention it in a video, I probably will mention it in my next video. That's probably going to bring in like several dozen more people, if not hundreds. If you get like huge, then it just becomes ridiculous. You know, it becomes impossible to even, you know, deal with like emails and stuff. But I think you have to be pretty huge for that. Like I don't know. Like you have to have like millions and millions of people following you to get to that point, I think. Like even if you get like 20 emails every day, you could, if you made it a priority, you could still respond to all of those. But if you're getting thousands of emails every day, then, you know, that's just impossible. What's up? What's up, people? New people to the stream? This is the tail end of the stream, but we're still here for now. I have listened to Pimp a Butterfly. It's good. It's very good. I like Good Kid, Mad City better though. Oh, I didn't see the new Lego movie yet either. It's been a while since I've seen a good old religious debate. I used to do that all the time. Now I don't care. Do you like any of animation story YouTube animation channels? I don't know what that sentence is. But I like some YouTube animation channels if that's what you're asking. I don't know if you're talking about something specific. What is the difference between leftists and liberals? Don't they both refer to Democrats, at least in the U.S.? Well, I guess I don't know. You're not really asking me, but in the United States, we use the word liberal as a very broad, very broad catch-all term for basically anyone who's left of center. So this can include everyone from like fucking free market capitalists all the way to anarchists. It's kind of like a not a good term. I think broadly in the world, broadly internationally, the word liberal refers to just certain ideals and a support of certain things, certain liberties, like freedom of speech is the big one. Usually capitalism, things like that. And it doesn't really refer to like the political left. Like conservatives can be liberals. People on the right can be liberals. People on the left can be liberals. Leftists these days, in my estimation, correct me if I'm wrong, but leftist seems to describe people who are strictly anti-capitalist. So people all the way from socialists to communists to anarchists. Maybe social democrats are considered leftists, but I'm not sure. How do you think the taboo of certain terms like fascism or even racism affects political discourse? Well, I think it's just one of the strategies of the right is to ironically to strip the meaning away from words like fascist and racist. I think it's a intentional strategy. I don't even think it's like a coincidence. Because I think that those words have, those words can be defined. We can describe racism, we can describe fascism when we see it. But I think that the right is trying to make it seem like fascist and racist has lost its meaning and that it's overused. And so because they say that, they can dismiss it anytime it's used, even when it's appropriately used. I think that's an intentional strategy by the right. Storytime animation YouTube channels. I guess I don't know that many of them. Is Alex Clark a Storytime animation YouTube channels? And Illymation, I like those. Now, it's possible for there to be disagreements about whether something is fascist or racist. I think that that's fine. But when it gets to a point where you just are trying to dismiss every accusation of racism, even ones that are like very clearly racism or fascism, then that's where the problem comes in. If it's like a matter of debate, that's cool. But if it's like very clear that that's what's happening, that's where it's a problem when people start to dismiss any accusations of racism. Like, a lot of people get mad when people describe Trump and the Trump administration, or maybe the Republicans at large, as fascists or proto-fascists or neo-fascists or whatever you want to call them. But I mean, if you just like find a textbook and looked up fascism, like, what do you find? You find stuff like, you know, xenophobia, mistrust of the press, wanting to punish critics, and wanting to legally punish critics and political opponents. You know, you find pretty clear parallels. So I think that it's appropriate to use the word. I had issues when Piers Morgan called Liam Neeson a racist murderer, for example. Well, I mean, I guess it's inappropriate to call him a murderer if he didn't murder someone. But if you say, I want to kill someone because they're black, that's racist and murderous. I don't know what else you would call it. I think Piers Morgan is a huge clown, but I mean, that's pretty close. Did I like Illumination's Abusive Boyfriend series? I did. I think it's like one of the most important things on YouTube. Yep, I made a video about about the use of the word racist. If you guys haven't seen it, you should check it out. It's called Racist. Racist is an adjective, not a noun. But yeah, people resist. People don't like being called racist, obviously. It's not a good thing. But we got to get to the point where we can call out racism when we see it and acknowledge the fact that people who aren't racist can do racist things. That was racist and murderous, but also a thought and not an action. I mean, yeah, but that doesn't, I don't know how that changes anything. That doesn't change the description. It's still appropriate to refer to it in that way. Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know the context of this conversation or this statement, so I don't know. I'm sure it was Piers Morgan being like a hyperbolic douchebag like he always is, but if the insinuation is that he's saying I know your heart in this moment, and I know that you are a racist person who likes to murder people, then that seems a bit unfair. But the description of the story that Liam Neeson told, I think it's fair to call it racist. And there's a lot more nuance to that story about yeah, like you said, I'm not sure that he completely understands, but I think that's a little bit of a digression from the what we're talking about. But yeah, there's more to it than simply that. But it's not a thing that I'm really that worried about. Like Liam Neeson is just one of many people that has or does experience these fucked up views, and the best I can ask for him is to not kill black people, and it seems like he's decided that that's a good thing to do. So I'll take it. Thomas Swift said Liam Neeson is a George Zimmerman who didn't find Trayvon Martin. Well, like I said before, I don't think it's fair to assume that you know someone's heart, especially someone who has said that they are different than they were. But if you're describing the action from the past that he mentioned in his story, then yeah, that's perfectly accurate. What is your opinion of capitalism's symbiotic relationship with systemic racism, e.g. private prisons and racial bias in courts? I don't know that capitalism has a symbiotic relation with racism, because humans are racist, and so any society and any system that humans form will be racist. But obviously, capitalism unchecked and if there's nothing in place to rein in people's ability to use sort of capitalist institutions in a way that obviously disadvantages, if not outright harms, people of color or people of any marginalized group, then obviously that's a problem, and something needs to be changed. I think American capitalism definitely benefits racists, though, for sure. Not necessarily that it benefits racists, but it enhances racism for sure. It does almost nothing to disincentivize racism, whether it's conscious or unconscious racism. I actually didn't see Sorry to Bother You. I missed out on a lot of movies last year. I don't think I've ever seen Jaden Animations. What are some things we can use to regulate capitalism? Well, I mean, that's a very, very complicated thing. But a lot of times you can literally just say, hey, don't do that. Hey, that thing you're doing is illegal. So, I don't know, like an example would be, for example, New York had the stop and frisk program. It was very obviously racist. And they were like, hey, don't do that. You can't do that. So literally just changing the law in many cases goes a long way. But it's really just a case by case basis type of thing. You have to sort of decide, okay, what is the negative outcome of the situation that we're trying to fix. And what causes that, and how can we address that cause? Sometimes it's just changing the law, or changing, just adding more regulations, but it may involve trying to change people over time. Like maybe maybe CEOs are forced to have sensitivity training or diversity training or things like that. I don't have all the answers, but I'm just saying, on a case by case basis, you just have to decide what the causes are and how you can address them. If money wasn't speech, legislation would be a start. Well, you would have to make it so that money wasn't speech. Like this happens a lot, where people ask you a question about capitalism in the abstract, but then they say, well, you can't, that doesn't work. And then they use a real practical example of why it doesn't work. Well, no, we're talking about it in the abstract. We're talking about the ideal version of it. We want to fix those problems. That's what I mean. That's what I'm saying. All right, Leopard King, thanks for coming to the stream. It's like I don't know. It's like if someone asks you, like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of an analogy, but that's not too silly. It's like if someone's like, I want you to bring my new shoes over across the street, and then someone says, well, but what if it's raining? Well, it's like, but we're talking about the situation we're talking about is not when it's raining. We're talking about a hypothetical situation where it's not raining. You can't just like insist upon the problems being part of the abstract hypothetical we're talking about. It's begging the question, really. It's like just assuming it's assuming the conclusion. It's one of those things, like there's like certain there's certain topics on both the left and the right where people just assume the conclusion, basically. And they sort of are unable to imagine that the conclusion could be wrong, so they can't like conceive of situations where the conclusion is wrong. And that's what I'm discovering whenever I have a conversation about capitalism. Basically, the argument is that capitalism is inherently bad and cannot be fixed, and so there's no arguing it because they've already assumed that conclusion. And there's other things like that, like veganism is another one. And I almost like never debate veganism anymore for that reason. And it may get to that point when we're talking about capitalism. But I mean, I obviously agree that the American capitalist system, which is the one that I know most about, so I don't know how it works in other countries, but I definitely agree that the system needs to be completely overhauled. It's like a complete shit show for sure. I didn't say it should be discussed in the abstract. People specifically ask me questions in the abstract, but then they protest my answer by leaving the hypothetical and adding something that's outside of the abstract, which I don't think is a fair way to really discuss it.
I am at it. Lol. Smiley face.
And I don't think we necessarily need capitalism, but I like things about it. How often I do live streams like this? My goal is to stream every week. I generally stream every week, every Monday. Yeah, 255. I just think that that's just a like I can't do anything with that argument. I don't know. It's like an impossible to discuss argument. When your argument is literally there is no way, like, basically it's just like it's like I said, it's assuming the conclusion. You can't argue with it. It's fine if you think that. I'm just saying it can't be responded to. Oh, thank you for the super chat. Hold on. Thank you, Chad, for the super chat. I made it. LOL. Thank you for the $5. Made. Appreciate that. Although the stream is about to end. I'm probably gonna leave in about 5 minutes, so maybe one more question or a couple of more questions. And then we're getting out of here. How do you feel about the different kinds of sexism that the 2020 candidates are facing? I don't know exactly what you're referring to. You might have to be more specific. And I don't know what you would want me to say. Like, how do I feel about sexism? It's bad. Have you seen Dirty Computer? No, I don't know what that is. Would you at least agree that if you have a super intelligent system that wants a particular outcome, trying to stop it is really hard? I don't know. It's only if you make a whole lot of assumptions. You're assuming that the system is more intelligent than any group of problem solvers, and that the system is inherently like foolproof and has no flaws and no contradictions. And neither of those things, I think, is analogous to the capitalist system. The American capitalist system is a broken mess with a lot of holes that could easily be plugged, to be honest, but we just fail to do it for various reasons. Does the title of the live stream reference Kofi Annan? It does not. It references Kofi Kingston, who is a wrestler, a professional wrestler, who wrestled a good match last night. I think it also assumes that the system is like sentient and uncontrollable, which also doesn't apply to capitalism, because capitalism is a system where the rules can be changed. Obviously there are processes and it's hard, but it can be done and is done all the time. What could an improved American capitalism look like? Well, the biggest thing is eliminating poverty, which could be done in many ways. But like, one of the most popular proposed ways is a basic income for people. And obviously, a thing like that would almost necessarily involve redistribution of wealth. There would have to be obviously very, very, very like thorough regulations on private companies and just companies in general. Basic necessities would be obviously probably free and easily accessible. Things like lobbying and gerrymandering would have to be illegal for sure. But it would require some sort of oversight. It may have to be like extra governmental, but there would have to be some sort of oversight over like lobbying and preventing money from influencing politics too much. But like, you know, in America right now, it's legal to bribe it's legal to bribe lawmakers. Like that's like a very easy thing. There's a very easy thing that we could already do like right now is just make that not legal. And I think if you're saying it wouldn't eliminate bribery, but if you're saying it would have no effect on it, I think you're just being unreasonable. You're just kind of being disagreeable for no reason, because obviously that would have a huge effect on a lot of things. I'm not necessarily, I'm not an expert on economics, but the growth of like the GDP and shit is like, it's like not one of my concerns. My concern is humans having good lives. When you say American, what do you mean when you say it's broken? Well, capitalism doesn't achieve the stated goals. For example, we have the whole point of, for example, competitive markets is that companies compete with each other, and the nature of that competition drives innovation, and it makes prices lower for goods, which makes them more affordable for people. But we have a system that incentivizes people to not do that. So obviously that's a contradiction. That means it's broken. Something is not working correctly. Something needs to be changed. And there are lots of other examples, but that's like a very like fundamental example of something that's not working. The whole economy thing, I think it's pretty frustrating because that's one of the things that Trump supporters love to talk about. Even though I feel like half of them don't even understand what's going on. But they're always like, well, the economy's pretty good under Trump. You have to admit that. It's like, I don't give a fuck, dude. I don't give a fuck when there's like trans people out here dying, you know? Like I don't I don't give a fuck about the economy. MX, thank you for the 100. Oh no, that's MX Mexican $100. Thank you for the super chat.
I'm glad I have a way to contribute.
Is that? I don't even know what that is. Anyway, thank you for the donation.
As a white cis moss are sometimes not obvious to me. Keep going.
Yeah, that's the Mexican peso. Appreciate it. I watch all your videos and you've really helped me to understand some realities that as a white cis male are sometimes not obvious. I appreciate that. Hey, no, that's, I mean, I appreciate any donation. I just didn't know that's how you wrote, that's how the symbol for the Mexican peso looked. They just put MX. That's cool. That's not what the capitalist system wants. It's just how we rationalize keeping it around. I mean, what is the source of that claim? Like this is what I mean. Like this is sort of like it's like you're assuming the conclusion. You've assumed because that's what is happening, that's how it's designed. Like, is there like a book of a book in the cosmos of like the true secret incentive of capitalism? the true secrets that they don't want you to know. Like, the reason that people support capitalism is because of certain things like that, like the idea of competitive markets and competition being good for the economy. If we, you can argue that can't happen, I guess, but you can't argue that's not really what capitalists want. Like, what? I mean, have you ever had bad roommates? Kind of. It's hard to say like bad roommates. I haven't had roommates that were like bad people, but I've had roommates that were like really frustrating to live with. In many ways, I think that living with anybody is kind of frustrating. Do you think this generation of American socialists will end up like a large majority of the 60s generation to drop the beliefs? I don't know. It just sort of depends, I think. I think there's a level of what is and isn't practical, and I think the older you get, the more you start to think more practically because you actually have like real shit to care about. Like, it's like you have kids and shit, and it's like, well, I need to realize what's actually practical for my life. But I couldn't tell you what is the line where things are impractical, because we have yet to see, really. Like, maybe, like, 5 years ago, not 5 years ago, maybe like 10 years ago, I probably would have said it's impractical to think that we would have universal health care in America. But now, to me, I'm not supporting anyone that isn't for universal health care, for free universal health care specifically, or inexpensive. So, the times change. So I think a lot of more socialist ideas can and probably will become more and more practical as time goes on. I don't think it's a conspiracy theory. I just think it's an argument from incredulity. I think it's a lack of imagination. It's basically the argument that because a thing happened a certain way, that means that's the only way it could have happened. To me, that's like a very poor argument. Like, it's like, even just on a fundamental like logic level, it's a poor argument. But just even practically considering considering reality, to me, there's like so many things that we could have done that we failed to do that would have caused different results. Do you generally deal with domestic issues, or do you ever branch out to international stuff and foreign policy? Well, I'm not as informed on like international politics as I'd like to be. I have very basic views on foreign policy, but I admittedly it is admittedly more complicated than I think I am capable of really discussing. Like I've been like researching Obama's presidency for a video, and I was a very big critic of Obama's foreign policy, but one thing that I supported because I voted for Obama in 2008, and one of the reasons was because he campaigned on ending the Iraq War, which obviously was like a huge mess, and a lot of people died in it. But Obama did end the Iraq War, but arguably ending the Iraq War basically directly resulted in massive increase in the influence of ISIS. So it's like, well, what should we have done in that situation? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I'm not smart enough. So when it comes to that sort of thing, I really feel sort of like woefully under informed. How do leftist speakers avoid becoming tools of capitalism? Well, I mean, I'm probably not the one to ask about that, because I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I really don't have a problem with selling stuff, and I really don't have a problem with combining politics and like money, or like selling stuff. Like I'm very happy that, you know, for example, I can have a situation where I can have a video sponsored for some like Dollar Shave Club or some random bullshit that allows me to continue spreading my message for a living. To me, that's amazing, and that's like almost entirely a good thing. I don't have a problem with that whatsoever. Anyway, I need to go. I stayed a little bit longer because it was a hearty conversation, which is always appreciated. But I'm gonna go ahead and go. I appreciate everybody for coming to the stream. Like I said, I stream every Monday, usually around 2 p.m. Central Time. So check that out. The easiest way to not miss a stream is to click the bell notification icon if you want. I know those things are annoying sometimes. If you would like to watch a replay of this stream or a replay of any past stream, there's a link to a playlist of the streams in the description below the video. And all those videos are unlisted, so the only way you can see them is if you have the link, and that link is below in the description. If you would like to ask me more questions, feel free to email me at hello@theonejanitor.com. And like I said, I have a Discord if you want to come hang out in the Discord. I'm really enjoying the Discord, and I'm probably going to be hanging out there a lot, so you can go ahead and join the Discord. And you guys can feel free to stay in the chat if you want to still talk to each other. You can do that. And I guess that's about it. I will have a video coming in the next few days. Probably Saturday. By the end of the week, I'll have a new video. Sorry it's been a while. But it's fine. People don't seem to mind waiting for a video as long as it's good. Thanks to everyone who donated or super chatted. I think there was a higher than average number of donations today, so that's cool. And I appreciate that. And I will see you all next week. Bye.